Let's just welcome everyone at this point. My name is Teduhay Bushan. I'm co-executive director of Fusion Fest, filling in for Terry Olson, who's finally enjoying his retirement, taking a month off to visit the eastern countries of Europe by the Baltic. So you'll be stuck with me for a little. And today our guest is Leah Nash from Tumakwa Arts Foundation. She's the executive director. And we're just going to have a brief conversation about diversity here in Central Florida and how Leah plays into the fabric that makes us so amazing. So, Leah, welcome.
Thank you so much for having me. I love being on this show with you. To us at Timoko and to myself, ethnicity and culture is so important.
Awesome. Thank you so much for being here, and thank you for reaching out to us and working with us and collaborating with us for your World Music Series. I think it's a wonderful foundation, and we'll get into that in just a little bit. But tell me a little bit about yourself. Where were you born?
Sure. I'm Leah Nash. I'm the executive director for Timokwa Arts Foundation. I was born actually here in Florida. I'm one of those few native Floridians, which is kind of funny because I grew up with lots of people who were born in Florida. So for me, it wasn't an unusual thing until I started kind of living and being on my own and realizing, oh, it's kind of special to be born in Florida. So I'm a first generation here in Florida. My parents are Filipino, so I consider myself Filipino American.
Awesome. And so you said you were born here. Were you born here in Orlando, or what part of Florida were you born in?
Yeah, I was born in Titusville, which is on the east coast of Florida, the state. And I was born in Titusville and I was raised there. I lived there until I was 18. And then I left and I went to Nashville for 1 year. I went to college at Vanderbilt and then I got a little homesick. So I ended up coming back to Orlando and going to school at Rollins. I got my bachelor's degree in anthropology and communications, which I feel like it serves me pretty well. And
Absolutely.
then I went to UCF and got my master's in communications there. So I really loved being in Florida, and I really consider Orlando to be my home.
That's awesome. Now in Titusville, was there a big Filipino community?
Not at all. In fact, there
No.
wasn't a huge Asian community at all. I was one of the few Asian kids that went to school with me. So I got kind of like clumped into this like group of this like melting pot of people that to others we all seemed the same, but in reality we were all very different. So that was kind of a neat, I would say, a very cool experience for me, especially because I was lucky. Instead of being kind of like ousted and being different, people tended to accept me for who I was and enjoyed like the ethnicity that came along with me and who I am as part of my culture. So I feel lucky in those regards.
Yeah, that is very lucky, I would say, because sometimes you see when children are different that they're kind of on the outside, but to really pull and find that that is your strength is a great foundation and a great core to who you are today and the work that you do. So, question for you: growing up, you're pretty close to the coast. Was there any traditions that your family carried over with them from the Philippines?
Sure. I would say mostly the traditions that came with my family had to do with food. So in my house, we ate the food that my mom made. I mean, we did a lot of things. I was born in the late 70s, and like my childhood was in the 80s and 90s. So that was a huge time for like the melting pot that was happening. So we were just part of that. My family, we I love the Filipino food that my mom makes. In fact, I love it so much that I rarely eat meat, but I will with my mom. And then the other funny thing is I've asked her several times to help like teach me how to make the food, but she always just ends up making it for me or my sister or my sister's son. So I think that's her way of kind of staying connected with us by providing us with
Yeah.
food and showing us that she loves us with her food, which is like so delicious. And then the other quick story I wanted to tell you was because it was such a melting pot in that time, I had a really unique Thanksgiving experience. A
Mm.
lot of the people in my community, we had all different ethnicities, but like I said, not just the Asian community kind of tended to get together, but like other ethnicities as well, because we were, I wouldn't say outliers, but we were just a little bit different, and we just kind of found each other and melded together. So every Thanksgiving, my family would go to a group of like 10 other families, and it was like Indian, Asian, like Filipino. I can't even think of all the different ethnicities of the people that were in this group, but it was super fun because we did have the traditional turkey, but then we had all these other like delicious and different side items as well. So those were my memories of Thanksgiving. It wasn't just me and my family, it was like me and this like extended family. It kind of
That's
reminds
awesome.
me of the divertastic meals that you all host.
Yes, and I think that's what one of our focuses were, because we really looked at what brings people together, what can we celebrate that has a lot of overlap and similarities, and that's a common ground, and it's food. Food is very well traveled around the world. So looking at that kind of niche community that you came from, and being able to um, not be on the outside. How was it when you moved to Nashville? Was that a different environment altogether?
I would say so. Nashville's a pretty southern area of the United States. So it came along with a lot of different cultural norms, I would say, that I wasn't quite used to because they were in my home. So it was very kind of, like I said, southern. So that was a lot for me to get used to. But I think in the same vein, it was so cool to be part of like a new culture and like learning different things about different people. And when you go to college, it's just like all sorts of different people that come
Right.
together too. So it's like not just ethnicity, it's socioeconomic, it's like just people I had never like encountered before, and that was really fun and special.
That's awesome. It's kind of that expansion of horizon, right? When you're at that pinnacle age of what am I going to do with life, and all the things that I thought I had figured out and the things that I'm learning. So it has brought you back here to Central Florida, and then you went and you got your master's at UCF. How was it coming back home after experiencing kind of the Southern hospitality, that side of America's culture, and then coming back home into a place that was just incredibly diverse?
Yeah, it was great. So I transferred to Rollins, and that's kind of like a little miniature Vanderbilt. So it was kind of similar in those regards, but I was able to get out of, I was active on my campus, but I was also active outside of my campus. So I got a job, I like met new people. And I just like to think that I've taken my Filipino heritage with me wherever I went, and through
Great.
food or like connections or just, you know, cultural kind of things like that. So I think it's been good to have that. It's like I'm diverse, but I have been exposed to so much diversity in my travels, and there really haven't been that many places I've lived. But I feel like when you're open to new things and open to people, that they just like open up to you, and then you learn so much.
Absolutely. That's one thing that I found in our travels as a young child. We broke bread with so many different cultures that they just opened their homes and their hearts up to us. And so coming back to Central Florida, I grew up here as well. And at the time, we it was very segmented, and I think we all knew, like, you don't go here, you don't go there, and it wasn't like a written rule anywhere. It was just more like we don't really know them. And coming from Hawaii and world traveling, it was very different to see little silos. And so as time went on and everybody started opening up and integrating, I think it became more familiar and more like home. So I really enjoy working with Fusion Fest in that aspect. And then plus, it's within the arts. So let's talk a little bit about arts, because I think that adds a lot of flavor to the diversity of Central Florida. Tell me what you currently do, and how people can find out more.
Sure. Thanks, T. And I appreciate that. I am the executive director for the Timucua Arts Foundation. We are a nonprofit organization, and our mission is to provide arts to all. And we really believe that arts belong to all. So that means in terms of diversity, ethnicity, inclusion, and accessibility. But we're basically a venue just south of downtown Orlando. We have a really fabulous story, and if you indulge me for a second, I'll tell you about it. Our founders, the name of our founder is Benoit Glazer. Him and his family. Benoit got recruited to be the music director at Cirque du Soleil, the La Nuba show that was here for several years, that's a huge responsibility, and brought us all to like amazing music and culture and performances. But as you can imagine, he and the other performers did the same show for 5 days a week, multiple times a day. So after a while, for them, it got a little bit like, I wouldn't say mundane, but it's the same thing every single day. And he really wanted, and his wife Elaine really wanted to have a place where musicians and people who are drawn to Orlando could be more experimental and like do the things that really like led their hearts and were free. So they actually started to open up their house in an area called Timucua, which is in the Seminole County area. And it got so big that they had to like knock down walls and stuff like that. And then they got even bigger that they eventually decided to build a new house. And that's when they selected the venue that we have now. But they built their living room to seat 100 people. They invite people in every week to their house, except for July. We don't have any shows in July. And because he's so curated with his music and his art and sound, it's like a sound perfect scape. So it's a beautiful space, three stories high, and it also is like sound perfect. We have what's called the acoustic control system, which means that like we have access, and I'm putting it in quotes because it's like access to rooms. And what that means is we have this control panel where we can say, I would like to sound like I'm in a cathedral in Austria. And we can select that, and the artist can sound like they're performing in a cathedral in Austria. But we have 64 options. So it's a pretty cool thing.
64. Mm-hmm. Yes, I've been in there. It's completely lined with white oak. He said he and his children put every single nail in that place. So very passionate about arts and about music and sharing that with Central Florida. Actually, I knew a couple of people who were his students for guitar, and they said he was just an incredible teacher and completely passionate about music. So when you go to Timucua, you can feel that. It's this home, yet a little bit of a speakeasy, but totally kind of a modern cathedral style, wood cathedral style venue. And there's 3 floors to the seating area. So, and then they also have art on display. So tell us a little bit about the activities that you have going on there, because it's not just focused around music.
You are absolutely right. And thanks for bringing that up. As you said, our main performances are music, and that means we have all sorts of different types of music. We have jazz, orchestral. We have, let's see what else. We have in August, we have an international guitar festival. So that would be great for some of your viewers to come out and see. In May, we do International Music, World Music Month, basically the same thing. In February, we do Timucua Amplifies Black Voices, which we extend through the whole year, but we have a focus on it in February, but we do it all year. But we also, like you said, we have theater plays that happen. So this weekend coming up, we have a weekend full of a theater play called Silence. And then on top of that, we also have a visual artist every month. So Benoit hand selects a visual artist to come. They display their artwork in the space. They come and they actually create pieces on stage at times. I've seen painters, I've seen illustrators, and then they're allowed to sell their pieces, and we don't take any commission at all. It all goes right back to the artist. So
yes,
that's a pretty cool part of it.
I've been fortunate to see a lot of the artists that I love locally also display in or showcase in Timucua. And again, I think it just adds to the nostalgia. It's also sort of like an old church feel, because you have church pews that are there, really eclectic, but very cool thing that really, I think, heightens Orlando's music scene. It's very unique. And so tell us where we can find your schedule and your tickets.
Of course, we are at timucua.com. That's TIMUCUA.com. We're also on Instagram and Facebook. So that's at Timucua Arts. And then I just wanted to say something really quickly about the diverse nature of the art that we provide. People get a little scared because they think it might be like over their head and it's a house. But I just wanted to assure everybody this house and this venue and the work that's done there is like the most accessible art that you could probably have, because when you go into someone's house, it just it's filled with love and you can feel it. And it's
Yes.
so like beautiful. Benoit gets up and says something every time. And he says, "Hey, this is my living room." And it really is the family's living room. And it doesn't feel, I don't even know what the word is, like above our
Intimidating. It doesn't
head.
feel intimidating.
It doesn't feel intimidating. You're right. Thank you, T, for that. And it's just, I I hope everybody can experience it. That's what we're trying to do.
Absolutely. So, folks, we've come to the end of our short 10-minute conversation, and it's really hard. But the point is just to pique interest so that you will learn to connect with each other and start reaching outside of your normal friend circles. I have seen Leah around many times, and she reached out to me via email, and I'm so glad that we personally connected at this point too. I've also been a guest at Timucua for a show and recently, but I've been a fan of it for many years. I would say dating back into 2006, 2007. So I love the space, and I will always promote it because I think that it is what makes Orlando so unique. So please connect with Leah, connect with Timucua Foundation, and we look forward to learning a lot more about the rest of you out there in Central Florida as well. Leah, thanks so much for being our guest today.
Thank you, T. Have a great day.
You too. Mahalo.